Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's late stream. I said in one of my previous updates that time to time I will make evening live streams, evening by Moscow time, and that's exactly what am I doing now. It's 6th of January, of course, 7 p.m. here in Moscow in the evening, and a lot is happening, by the way, a lot of important developments and the news that we will go through during this live stream. Of course, sir, if there will be any questions or the comments that you want to be highlighted through super chat on Rumble or some other support platforms, PayPal, Boosty, I will react on it. And hopefully more people will join our stream shortly. I understand this time is very busy on internet. Big channels are active this time around, and there might be only few people during this stream, but even if so, I will try my best to give you informative program. And without further delay, let's go through some news now. And let's start with this report that Russian armed forces liberated a Grabovskoye settlement in the Sumy region. Information is confirmed by Defense Ministry. I reported 10 days ago, maybe even more now, about progress of the Russian armed forces in area of this settlement. And it took quite a while for Defense Ministry of Russia to confirm this progress and to acknowledge or to announce that Grabovskoye settlement is under Russian control. Russian troops have moved quite far away westwards and northwards from this settlement already. Also, dear friends, today there is yet another meeting of Coalition of Willing, so-called Coalition of Willing in Paris, France, and U.S. delegation is participating in this meeting of Russian enemies. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, special envoy of U.S. president and son-in-law of U.S. president, are also participating in this meeting. At least they were spotted, by the way, as you can see on your screen right now, entering as, if I'm correct, Elise Palace or whichever building, by the way, where some official meetings are going to take place. Zelensky is there, this Western masked murderer and the genocidal maniac. He was greeted by French President Emmanuel Macron, as you can see on your screen there. Also, reports are, and BBC, for example, were reporting about it, the draft statement by the so-called Coalition of Willing will propose declaring the EU countries and Canada as prepared to offer Ukraine blinding commitments in the event of a future Russian invasion. These commitments could include the use of military capabilities, intelligence and logistical support, diplomatic measures, and their additional sanctions. Basically, enemies of Russia, leadership of collective West, is still pushing for their old agenda at this point to prolong this war as much as possible, to somehow lure Russia into a trap of false negotiations, deception operation, basically, and then force its hands to agree on temporary measures, ceasefire, for example, after which Western ruling class plans to deploy its troops, NATO troops, basically, disguised under whatever. It will not change substance. It's a NATO troop still, right? They want to deploy NATO troops and at some point do some provocation, right? And use their provocation as a justification for direct confrontation between NATO troops and Russia. They want a war, basically. They are pushing for a war and they will get war, right? They are dreaming about it, so they're going to get it, right? Also, reports are, for example, Le Monde, French propaganda outlet, said that France and UK are planning to send their 15 to 30,000 troops on a Kiev-controlled territory, mainly in Western Ukraine, although who knows, right? They have plans to send these troops when ceasefire will be reached, according to their plans, and Turkey allegedly will secure Black Sea for the NATO. That's their plan. Let's see how it will work out. Also, by the way, interestingly, Ukrainian propaganda, there is because there is a tensions inside the regime now, and there is a reshuffle, and clearly fight is escalating for place under the sun. Rats are beginning to eat each other, so therefore these rats control obviously different propaganda outlets on the Kiev control territory, Strana UA being one of them, and they are coming up with interesting statements, one might say. Ukraine and the EU will try to convince the US to include to send its troops, basically, to introduce its troops to the plan, deployment of US troops. And they know Russia will reject idea. Russia will never agree on such a so-called peace plan, and allegedly globalist control regimes in Europe and their proxy regime in Kiev, they plan to use this rejection from Moscow of that plan as justification for further escalation. Let's go through some details of this reporting. Kiev and its European partners will try to pressure US President Donald Trump to include in the Ukraine peace plan clues clearly unacceptable to Russia regarding deployment of foreign troops to Ukraine territory, so they can then blame Moscow for the breakdown of the negotiations. Yet again, interesting that this report is coming from Kiev-controlled territory, Ukrainian propaganda outlet, right? So they are openly saying now that they are in for some provocations, right? And they are not serious about actual de-escalation. Interesting. Meanwhile, as I said, the reshuffle continues on the Kiev-controlled territory, and Malyuk, at this point, I guess, former head of SBU, officially announced his resignation from position of being a leader of SBU, the terrorist organization that committed numerous crimes against Russian citizens, against Russia, and he is going to be replaced by Yevgeny Khmara, that you see on your screen right now. Also, by the way, when it comes to reshuffles and appointments in this terrorist regime in Kiev, it is interesting, I guess, to know that a former foreign minister of Canada, Chrystia Freelander, was appointed as an advisor on economic developments by Zelensky. And this is quite interesting because maybe you know, maybe you don't, but this personality, Chrystia Freeland, is a granddaughter of a Ukrainian Nazi, and the collaborator with the fascist Germany, Nazi Germany, during the World War II. I give you some details on that. So choice is notable, given that Freeland's family background is closely linked to Nazism and crimes against humanity. Her grandfather, Mikhail Chomyak, spent World War II working for German military intelligence as their editor of a Ukrainian newspaper that openly praised Hitler and promoted violence against the Jews, Russians, against everybody, basically. He was active supporter of genocide of the people. After the war, Chomyak and his family were accepted into Canada alongside thousands of other Ukrainian Nazi collaborators and their SS members. And this is the reason why there is this bigger diaspora of so-called Ukrainians in Canada. Thousands of them, by the way, were sent there, right? Thousands of these Nazis and the fascists, right? This person, grandfather of Freelander, later settled in Alberta, where he remained active in extreme right-wing causes. So that's the personality that's gonna be now economical advisor of Zelensky. Freaking Nazis, man. Freaking Nazis and filth, right? Just a filth. Also, interesting news, I guess, that Russian Foreign Ministry is monitoring the situation with the Russian tanker Marinera, which is being pursued by US militaries and the Coast Guard for quite a while now, more than 2 weeks, I guess, at this point. So Russia is monitoring the situation involving their oil tanker Marinera, which is being shadowed by US and NATO forces in international waters of the North Atlantic. The Russian Foreign Ministry told the Izvestia. According to the ministry, the US Coast Guard vessels has been following the tanker for several days. Yet again, it's more than a week, 2 weeks now, I will say. Despite the ship being roughly 4,000 kilometers away from the US coastline. The foreign ministry stressed that Marinera is sailing under the Russian state flag and fully complies with international maritime law. It expressed their hope that Western countries will adhere to the principle of freedom of navigation on their high seas, which they publicly claim to uphold. And of course, they're gonna not honor no agreements. By the way, US allegedly, according to some reports that I see, US has already deployed into UK, by the way, some special forces to board this, to hijack basically this tanker together with their probably British servicemen, right? And their assault on this tanker probably to be expected when it will get closer to Northern Sea, right? North Sea. Destination of the tanker is Murmansk. So one way or another, but this tanker has to move northwards, right? And exactly at that point, probably NATO countries are going to conduct this hijack operation. That's my expectations. And also, what is interesting, I guess at this point, it's just too freaking clear that Russian Navy have to deploy in the ocean its frigates on long missions, right? On the long missions to secure maritime routes, because it's not safe, by the way. It's no longer safe for vessels to navigate, especially vessels that are bound to a country or linked to countries that Western ruling class hates. And therefore, I guess it's only a matter of time when we will see deployment of Russian blue water fleet all around the world to basically secure maritime routes. Obviously, Russia does not have so many vessels to escort each single individual tanker or bulk carrier or whatever, right? So therefore, frigates must be deployed in, number of frigates must be deployed all around the world to provide at least certain security for the Russian commercial fleet, right? And their commercial vessels that are coming, that are under flags of other countries, but are coming or leaving the Russian ports, right? It's inevitable. It's inevitable. TASS news agency is also reporting that Delcy Rodriguez, CIA prostitute, by the way, was sworn in as acting president of Venezuela. And what I find funny, quite a number of big channels, by the way, even in alternative media and experts, are kind of trying to whitewash this personality, Delcy Rodriguez, and the entire freaking government, so-called government of Venezuela, that committed treason, state treason, right? They allowed US to go in, capture their president. Maybe all of them were hating Maduro, right? Maybe Maduro is a worst human being ever in history. Maybe it's not about that, right? It's about state sovereignty. It's about politics, dignity, principles, right? Service to the people. And I'm quite sure, by the way, Delcy Rodriguez is on the payroll of CIA. She is a CIA prostitute, obviously, and the entire government of so-called government of Venezuela. Because I remind you, after Maduro was kidnapped, yet again, you might have any opinion on Maduro. It's irrelevant at this point, right? Or maybe he is. Let's say he was a worst human being, or still is, like worst human being in the world. Nevertheless, Venezuela's sovereignty was violated, right? US committed the act of war. They went in, kidnapped their president, went out, and not a single government member, by the way, resigned in Venezuela. I have not seen no news that even a single government member resigning out of shame, right? Because for God's sake, man, what the hell, right? How you can allow this stuff to happen? Then obviously, quite a number of government officials, including Dulce Rodriguez, defense minister, interior minister. All of them are on the payroll of CIA. All of them issued orders to militaries and security services of Venezuela to stand down, right, and to allow Americans to go in, kidnap their president, and leave the country without basically any resistance from Venezuelan militaries. Only resistance Americans see is from Cuban, right? From, as far as I can tell, security detail of the Maduro, that was a Cuban militaries, right? Cuban specialists, let's say, militaries or security officers. And 32 of them were killed by Americans. So I don't know what's going on, why there is a clear whitewashing campaign in the media, in MSM, by the way, including here in Russia. Russian officially recognized Delcy Rodriguez as a legit now, and Moscow is also playing along with this current flow of this freaking narrative that somehow Delcy Rodriguez is a decent human being and legit. Okay, by the way, but I wonder why these experts in alternative media are whitewashing this criminal, man, right? I don't get it. Maybe I'm missing something here, but why true being ignored? That in no circumstances, decent human being that was not involved in this operation from the Venezuelan government side would resign straight away, right? None of them resigned. And Delcy Rodriguez not just did not resign, but she is now acting president. She was sworn in, right? It's crazy. It's crazy, by the way. You might ask her, what is my take? I have already shared my opinion. I think there was some trade-off between China and US, first of all, right? Maybe Moscow was involved in some ways. I don't think Russia's influence in Venezuela is that significant, or if there is any influence at all. But China was present in Venezuela in a big time. They had a big investments. They had a big plans, right? For Venezuela, I remind you, before Maduro was kidnapped, like few hours before that, he had a meeting with the Chinese delegation, high-ranking Chinese officials, right? So maybe at that meeting, Chinese representatives, told Maduro that that's what's going to happen. Venezuelan army will stand down. He will be arrested, trialed in the US, and after some time, maybe after a year, after 2 years, he's going to be swapped. There's going to be some swap between China and US, yet again, with participation possibly also Moscow. There might be some swap, and Maduro will be released, right? And well, he's going to live his freaking happy life being a multimillionaire, right? Somewhere in China, hopefully not in Moscow, man. Hopefully not in Russia, right? We don't need these freaking losers, man, here. Why all these losers are ending up in Moscow, man? No, we should close the door for these kind of people like Maduro, Assad, and all the rest of the garbage, right? But yes, maybe Maduro himself was involved there. Probably he was, right? And his cabinet, all of them were involved. And by the way, they committed treason to Venezuelan people, to Venezuela as a state, right? This is a state treason, what they did. And I said quite a number of times before that it's only a matter of time before people of Venezuela will realize that they've been betrayed, they've been sold off by this so-called government of theirs, and we should expect armed rebellion. We should expect a large-scale armed rebellion, and process is kind of underway. There was a shootout already in Caracas, by the way. Plenty of videos are circulating about it. Some say shootout was linked to some drone that was operating near government building, presidential residency or something. Some are saying that these forces of Ministry of Internal Affairs were engaged in some shootout or some power struggle. Allegedly is already begun between these government officials, so-called government officials. But yet again, mark my word, by the way, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. And people of Venezuela will take up arms. Many of them already have arms, right? And they will start fighting. They will start fighting. And I think this is celebration laps that U.S. leadership was making around, bragging how powerful they are and how super pooper operation they pull off. Oh, they're gonna find out soon that they were mistaken big time, and U.S. gonna be luring into this this graveyard that Venezuela gonna become for the U.S. militaries, private military company stuff, regular militaries, and so on and on. Venezuela is destined for total chaos, by the way. Total chaos. It's only a matter of time. There might be, I mean, maybe China and the U.S. had some trade agreement between each other that yes, China is not messing around with U.S. In the Western Hemisphere, and U.S. will do the same in the Chinese neighborhood. I don't think U.S. will honor such an agreement if this kind of agreement was even reached. But I don't think either China or the either China or Moscow or the US, for that matter, are in a position to secure Venezuela, actually, right? This country is destined for a large-scale turmoil, civil unrest and civil war. And they're going to be massive resistance campaign from Venezuelan people. Let's continue with some other news, dear friends. Trump, meanwhile, continues to demonstrate that they are in charge, right, of Venezuela. And Trump said that they're going to be no elections anytime soon there. So no one should expect that election is going to take place or something. Why would the U.S. want elections, right? Entire freaking government of Venezuela is on the payroll of CIA, so they control everybody, right? So why would they need this headache, additional headache with these false games around democracy and liberties and freedom and human rights and stuff, right? They don't want this, right? Trump already brushed off this Machado personality. So yes, U.S. is in charge, by the way. U.S. formally, at least, is in charge, and they are quite happy and will stay happy until we will see mass resistance beginning. And I'm telling you, by the way, just mark my word, it will not take too long before resistance movements will appear, right? People not going to buy into these false narratives that government of Venezuela is feeding them. No way. And what is also interesting in regards to this whole Venezuelan story, by the way, is how impotent Western ruling class actually is, and these Western so-called politicians, especially, I mean, how pathetic European politicians are, man, high-ranking officials. I'm going to show you some video, by the way, of Keir Starmer humiliating himself for being unable to say a single critical word about these totally illegal actions the U.S. undertaking in Venezuela. Just watch it, man. Just look at this. These people are joke, man. These creatures, man, are freaking joke. Look.
Donald Trump over Venezuela. How can we lecture Russia over its invasion of Ukraine, or if China takes action against Taiwan?
Well, the position of this government is that what we need in Venezuela is a peaceful transition to democracy. That was our position before this weekend. It remains our position. The president was illegitimate and caused untold misery across Venezuela. International law is the framework, is the anchor or the benchmark against which we judge the actions of all other governments. And it is, of course, for the US to justify the action that it has taken. It is not straightforward, it is complicated, and even today there are further developments. But I won't shy away from the fact that international law is the framework and is the benchmark.
So you see, do I have to add anything? No, I don't. What a pathetic these so-called leaders of the Europe are, man. Scum, literally scum. By the way, I don't understand how anybody in Europe can tolerate this kind of individuals being their prime ministers and the leaders and stuff like that. But okay, at least the whole world, by the way, has some sort of leverage now over the Western world, because all these talks about international law and rules-based order and all that kind of crap, by the way, gonna go down to toilet, right? No one gonna take any lecturing from the Western world for sure, right? These are usual talking points of the Western ruling class are finished, right? And I don't think any country in this world will tolerate lecturing from these fake Democrats or the liberals, right, from the Western world. It's just freaking pathetic, man. Freaking pathetic. Also, on top of that, by the way, if you think things cannot get any worse, you are wrong, because it will get even worse than it is right now in the Western world. And reports emerged that BBC, by the way, British propaganda outlet that is financed by British taxpayers. So BBC bans saying US kidnapped Maduro. They banned the word, by the way, kidnapping, right? Which is crazy, right? The BBC has instructed staff to avoid describing the US abduction of the Venezuelan president Nicolas Maduro as a kidnapping, and to use less loaded alternatives, such as seized, according to leaked internal memo shared online by British journalist and the Guardian columnist Owen Jones. So that's where Western world is right now, by the way, right? And they love to talk about freedom of speech and the truth and human rights, freedom of expression, all that goodies, right? That they hate, actually. Western ruling class hates everything that they say they are fighting for. That's how fake those people are, man. That's how fake all of them are. They are banning words now in the BBC to somehow support this criminal activity of the Washington, right? It's crazy. But even worse, Antonio Guterres, by the way, so-called UN Secretary General. And that's why I'm saying UN is a joke, by the way. It should be dissolved, because I have no freaking idea why UN is existing at all, right? What UN does, any good thing that UN has done ever, especially in past several decades, no, it's a pure waste of money of the taxpayers all around the world, because member states are paying big money, right? Big membership fees, by the way, millions we are talking about, hundreds of millions, billions actually, even, right? And look what Antonio Guterres is saying. In a situation as confused and complex as the one we now face in Venezuela, it's important to stick to principles respect for the UN Charter. What is the complex and confused, by the way? US went in, kidnapped president of Venezuela, right? And they have this individual and his wife in there as a hostages, by the way, in the America now. There is nothing confusing there. It's very clear what happened, right? US had no legal justification whatsoever to attack Venezuela, to bomb Venezuela, to kill dozens of people in Venezuela, right? And to kidnap anybody, let alone president of the Venezuela, right? There is nothing confusing there. It's a crime and should be condemned by UN Secretary General. But no, man, Gutierrez, this is a fake freaking scum of humanity, fake human, right? This disgusting garbage is saying that, well, it's a confused and complex situation. And how anybody can expect, by the way, that we ordinary people should have any respect for this garbage, man? Either these so-called international organizations or the freaking elites, right? These world elites. They are scum, man, all of them, right? although I don't believe there is even a single decent human being among world elites, man. I really don't, right? Especially in the Western world, by the way, right? Especially in the Western world, but world in general is run by scum of humanity, I would say. Personal opinion, you might agree with me or not, but I think world elites are scum of humanity. Truly, man, this most worst representatives of the humanity. And there's a confirmation of that, by the way. Another representative of these so-called global elites, U.S. envoy, permanent representative in the UN, Waltz, went to say that there was no military operation, by the way, no military aggression against Venezuela. It was a law enforcement operation, right? And he tried to justify these criminal actions of the US in UN, exactly, right? In UN, by the way, and like he was looking into faces of all these diplomats from all around the world and saying lies like it's just another day, man. Nothing extraordinary is happening, and this is true. That's what they do, man. They always lie. It's their lifestyle to lie, right? How anybody can actually, with straight face, said that U.S. didn't conduct a military operation, didn't conduct aggression against Venezuela when they bombed the country, went in with their military means, right? Kidnapped the freaking president and take him as a hostage, and they are saying it was not military aggression. Seriously, man. Wow. Let's bomb US, by the way. You know, let's bomb US to the ground and said, hey, no, there was no aggression, man. It's a humanitarian mission. It's a humanitarian mission. Let's fucking bomb the US, man. No, let's decimate New York, for example. Just let's do it for mankind. You know, in the interests of mankind, and call it a humanitarian mission. Will it be okay? Will it be okay, man? No, it would not, isn't it? It would not. But yeah, Americans, they're American elites, by the way, that pretend to be world elite, right? On top of the pyramid, this Western ruling class. Yeah, man, they are something special. They are something special. Meanwhile, Russian permanent representative to UN, Beznya, called actions of the US a criminal operation, demanded immediate release of hostages from America, Maduro and his wife. And Russian representative also stated that Washington is generating fresh momentum for neocolonialism and imperialism, which is, I mean, all true, all factual. All true, all factual. Although, by the way, we all understand that probably literally nobody in Western ruling elites cares what Moscow have to say about anything, literally anything, by the way, right? It's only we are in a place now when nothing really matters, right? Force is the only language that actually can do some stuff, right? Rest is just a pure waste of time. Unfortunately, in the first half of 21st century, we as a humanity end up in a situation when only force actually, or language of force, right, is actually achieving anything. Diplomacy is dead. The diplomacy is just freaking dead, man, right? And you guessed where we're gonna end up. Not in a good place, isn't it? We as a humanity, man, not in a good place. In 20th century, there was a two world wars, right? In the 21st century, and if we as a humanity will survive, what is coming? I don't know, but eventually, when diplomacy is dead, by the way, when negotiations are useless, when only force is being used as an argument, definitely we cannot move forward, right? We will move only backwards as a world, as a humanity, as a civilization, and we're gonna end up in a big trouble, in a hot world war, man, which will be nuclear one most likely. And this process is led by Western ruling class, because you know what, they know they are losing competition. So I guess their attitude is now, if they're not going to control this world, they're going to fuck this world up. They're going to destroy it. Either they are in control or they will destroy it. They don't care, man, right? They have bunkers, nice bunkers, and they probably think that they're going to survive no matter what. That's their attitude, isn't it? I mean, do you agree with me? Because they are clearly pushing world towards their global disaster. I mean, it's just too freaking obvious. Marco Rubio, meanwhile, confirmed what I just said, that no one in the West, among Western ruling class or the so-called global elite, cares about what either Moscow has to say or anybody, right? And he straight, directly said to the journalist that he don't cares what the UN thinks about anything, right? He says this directly, that he just don't cares what UN have to say. And UN is a whole world, by the way, right? UN is not just one person or one delegation or something. UN it's a United Nations, right? Whole world is there. And Rubio says straight away he don't give a damn about what this world has to say. That's it. Meanwhile, there was a hearing in New York, a spectacle show, by the way, right? And Maduro and his wife were brought into the so-called court. There was some initial hearing, and the next episode of this show will take place on March 17. On March 17, and as I said, by the way, there is a high probability, in my personal opinion, that there was some trade-off between China and US, most likely between China and US. Possibly Moscow was maybe somewhat involved. Maybe not. Maybe they completely ignored Moscow, did not inform Moscow what they are up to. But I think it was a trade-off between China and US. A big mistake on part of China, if so, right? But nevertheless, I think it was a trade-off. Probably China promised Venezuela that he will be taken into US. Then there will be trial. He will get sentenced. Then he will be pardoned and exchanged. So he might spend in US custody maybe, I don't know, a year or two, right? And he's going to be exchanged, most likely, by the way, with some US assets that probably are detained in China or maybe in Russia or something like that. If they even informed Moscow, Beijing and Washington what they were up to. But clearly this was a trade, some trade-off between these major superpowers, US and China. Otherwise, I just cannot understand how it was possible that literally entire freaking government, entire armed forces and security services of Venezuela was on a stand down while US militaries were going in and kidnapping their president, man. They had orders, right? They had orders. They were on a payroll, obviously, of US, China, God knows who else, right? So they had the clear orders: stand down. We know what we're doing. Don't get involved, or we will take you off, freaking out too. And Maduro probably was also informed about this show that US was planning to do. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that Congress urged Democrats to consider impeaching Trump. Congresswoman April McLean Delaney called on the Democratic Party to impeach US President Donald Trump over his operation in Venezuela. And even though there is enough reasons, by the way, in the place to impeach Trump, not just for Venezuela, but for many other things, I don't think Democrats gonna impeach him now. I don't think this will happen now, but after midterms, which is going to be absolute disaster for Republicans. Quite sure about it. When Democrats will regain control over the Congress, then maybe some Republicans even push for impeachment of the Trump to save the party, to save the influence, right? Because Republicans are on a deathbed right now. Party itself is on deathbed because I truly don't understand how anybody can vote for these people that are representing the Republicans, man. How anyone can trust Republicans nowadays in the US, I don't know. How many times they have to be lied by Trump and by all the others, right? To realize that these are fake people, man. Nothing that they say is worthy. So yeah, the Republicans are finishing. Republican Party is dying for sure, and the only way they might prolong life of this criminal organization that the U.S. Republican Party is to basically get rid of Trump after midterms, right? And then pretend that it was a Trump that betray electorate, but they are different now. They are different, and they're gonna follow their promises, pre-election promises and stuff like that. This will work probably on some brainwashed Americans, but I think very big portion of Republican electorate will never ever vote for this party, or at least until they will see actual true changes. Because everyone and everything is fake there in the Republican Party and on the right side of the aisle. Left side Democrats, by the way, they've been dead for long, right? I'm not even talking about them. They went through, beyond their insanity, right? So I don't understand how sane people can vote for Democrats ever, right? So they are long dead, man. But Republicans are there too, for sure. And American ruling class is going to have an issue, isn't it? Keeping this system, current two-party system in place, because more and more Americans, as far as I can tell, are too unhappy with their political system, with these fake people that are pretending to be for America, for Americans, right? And they're not going to vote. Simply, they're not going to vote, man. And because of it, of course, American ruling class will try to prolong the lifespan of Republican and Democrat Party to this current corrupt system. But same time, probably they will begin actively pushing for some changes. They will come up with alternative parties, right? They might use Elon Musk for that, or some other elements, and they might create some alternative parties, like it's done in Europe, by the way, right? It's done in England, right? In UK, by the way, this Reform UK party, Nigel Farage is going absolutely crazy, right? If Brits were thinking that this Reform UK party is really alternative and they are different, holy moly, man, they are not. They are even worse. Farage was in full support of actions of Trump, these criminal actions of Trump in Venezuela. Farage went full Russia hate mode, by the way, full Russia hate mode, right? And so yes, I think her IFD in Germany is also a creation of the globalists, right? To deceive the people, right? Deceive the people. Le Pen's party is the same garbage in France, by the way. Western ruling class will not let you ever regain control over your countries, by the way, right? So if you see any one person or any one party is being promoted or rising up, then something dodgy is happening there, because system is built in a way that it will never allow decent people, by the way, decent human beings, to be successful there, to succeed, right? And to actually serve the interests of the people. These political systems in the West are not created for that. These systems are created to serve elites, right? To serve aristocracies, so-called aristocracies, elites, not the people. They don't give a damn about people. For them, by the way, we, ordinary human beings, are just an economical unit. That's all it is, man. They don't even see us as a fellow human beings, man. They see us as a currency, right? Economical unit. That's all. So yes, there is some talks about impeaching Trump, but I don't think it will happen now. It will happen probably after midterms. J.D. Vance will take over, but he's compromised too, isn't it? J.D. Vance is keeping quieter. He's compromised too, by the way. So there's going to be no big difference, right? Vance's administration probably would not be as crazy as current administration is, but he's a compromised too. I mean, otherwise he would not be in a position of VP, right? RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that U.S. allegedly wants to offer Greenland agreement on a free association, which will basically allow Americans to do with the Greenland whatever they want. Although, by the way, Denmark and a couple of countries in Europe cautiously, but are opposing, right? This recent aggressive rhetoric from White House, from Donald Trump. I don't think they are in a position to do anything, really. If American ruling class decides that, well, they're gonna occupy Greenland, well, they will do it. They will order Trump to sign the order for militaries, and and American militaries already are there, by the way, in Greenland. All they have to do is bring down a Danish flag and rise even higher American flag. That's it. And they will say, now this is our territory, and that's about it, right? No one gonna fight Americans, by the way, for Greenland among European countries, isn't it? Even Denmark not gonna fight, man. They will whine about a little bit, and that's about it, right? So yeah, something is going to happen in regards to Greenland. This is for sure. And Dmitriev, aide of Russian president, said exactly that U.S. has already resolved the Greenland issue and may now target Canada. I don't know what Dmitriev knows about future of Greenland, but he is well informed, isn't it? He is the aide of Russian president, so I don't think he would say something like that without a reason. And it's not just Greenland, by the way. It's not just Greenland, not just Canada. It's many other countries, Cuba, of course, being one of them. Iran is a target. Iran is a target, of course, also. And yesterday, that was, I believe, this Lindsey Graham creature, by the way, this scum of humanity on Fox News went with her hat that says "Make Iran Great Again." Then he was posing together with the Trump with the same hat. So yes, they are clearly sending messages, right? That they're gonna attack Iran. By the way, they're gonna attack Iran. It seems absolutely inevitable at this point. And Israeli Jerusalem Post, by the way, Israeli propaganda outlet, also basically come up with an article indicating that U.S. is weighing in to attack Iran, to get engaged in internal affairs of Iran. There is some sabotage activity of the Western assets inside Iran. Yesterday I showed you videos, by the way, of the so-called peaceful protesters that were using flamethrowers to burn alive policemen, and they were running around with AKs, right? You're not going to see that kind of video on the Western media, right? But that's what is going on, and that's the criminals that Western propaganda loves to call peaceful protesters, right? I mean, and who can blame them? I mean, it is so peaceful when you take a flamethrower and and use it against policemen. I mean, that's a pinnacle of the peacefulness, isn't it? And when you are running around with AKs, with machine guns and rifles, and they're shooting left and right, that's a pinnacle of the peace. That's you are demonstrating your peacefulness at that particular moment, isn't it? That's what Western media is telling us, and who can not believe them? And I mean, Western media is like on top of the game, isn't it? They have principles. Western journalists, by the way, they have principles. You know, they never lie. They never lie to nobody ever, right? So if they say it's a peaceful protesters, it must be. And AKs and flamethrowers and Molotov cocktails and bombs and stuff. It's all for mankind, for mankind, you know, for interest of the mankind. So it's all good. Fucking hell, man. Israel, meanwhile, continues to commit crimes against humanity, left and right. They are bombing Gaza, by the way, on a little lesser scale than previously, but they still continue to kill innocent Palestinians in Gaza, and they are bombing hell out of Lebanon. Literally on a daily basis, they are bombing Lebanon. Right now on your screen, you can see pictures, screenshots, basically, from numerous such attacks that Israel conducted in southern Lebanon in past 24 hours. And seems like there is no force in this world right now that can stop Israel from committing these crimes against humanity. Just there's no one there to stop Israel. But yes, I just said that there are other indicators that US and Israel are about to attack Iran, and they will, no doubts about it. And Iran's Defense Council issued a stark warning as this rhetoric against Iran, anti-Iranian rhetoric in the West is increasing. Security, independence, territorial integrity are red lines, Tehran says. Any hostile course will meet a decisive response. And statements, yes, of course, statements are important, sometimes at least, right? But can Iran actually fight back? Only if they will lure in ground forces. I don't think Iran is in a position, no matter how much support they're going to get from China or Russia, by the way, in terms of radio electronic warfare, air defense systems and stuff. Only way Iran can beat US is if, they will manage to trigger US ground operation in Iran. In that case, they can beat the US, right? They can defeat American troops because American troops are freaking cowards, man. All they can is to kill civilians left and right. That's what they did in Iraq. That's what they did in Libya. That's what they did in Afghanistan, everywhere. They are best in killing the civilians, right? When it comes to actual fighting, well, they are freaking cowards, man. They are running away as soon as there is a battle, right? And you'll see what happened in Afghanistan, by the way, how cowardly they ran away, leaving behind so many people, by the way, right? So that's what it is. On the ground, Iranian troops will exterminate American militaries, no doubts about that. But in air, by the way, air supremacy of the Israel and US is just overwhelming, right? So maybe asymmetric warfare. Maybe Iran has to take on asymmetric warfare. Maybe they have to activate whatever elements they might have on US soil, by the way, right? As a retaliatory measure. If they bring pain on US soil, in that case, yes, they might at least achieve something, right? But otherwise, man, what are they gonna do? I mean, America can bomb Iran from air for years on end, man. Right? Eventually, they will cripple their defense systems, their aviation, their ground war forces too, in certain ways. But Nevertheless, I think on the ground, Iranian troops will decimate American militaries. So there is two scenarios how Iran can beat the US. It's either to bring the pain to America, and that means to send assets there to conduct military operations inside the US against military legit targets, by the way, right? And another is to somehow trigger US to deploy ground forces. That's it, man. When it comes to the statements, yeah, okay, statements are understandable, but statements not gonna deter nobody. And Kirill Dmitriev was trolling, by the way. I don't know who he was trolling. Probably everybody, right? He reposted or this meme sort of thing. How world is divided right now. There is a Western Hemisphere. It's how Trump sees the world, right? Western Hemisphere is Trump's territory. Eurasia, Northern Eurasia at least, is a Putin's territory. Southern Eurasia and Southern Eastern Africa is China, Xi Jinping's territory. Okay, maybe Trump actually sees the world this way, but I don't think this is even close, relatively close to be accurate. US is in no position, by the way, to reconquer Western Hemisphere. Now, they might achieve success in regards to Venezuela, right? For now, in short terms, but give it a couple of months, give it a couple of years, by the way, and we're gonna see that they didn't really achieve anything in Venezuela. We're gonna see that they actually triggered processes. Americans initiated the processes that will harm US itself big time, right? And it will, by the way. So I don't think US is gonna be in charge of actual control of Western Hemisphere, not in the long term, for sure. When it comes to Eurasia, Northern Eurasia, by the way, I don't think Russia, and here you can see Europe is also area dominated by Russia or the Putin. And I don't think this is Russia's ambitions. I don't think this is Putin's ambitions. I mean, Russian leadership was quite, direct. What they see as Russia's strategical interest. It's a security. It's its own security, by the way, right? And security of the immediate neighborhood, right? That's all. Russia has no interests to be world dominant power. We don't need that, right? China and US, yes, they might see themselves as a dominant force in this world, but we don't want this shit, man. We just don't. So therefore, Europe here should be kind of a black hole, man. We are not interested, right? Europe is doomed, right, to turn into a black hole soon, man. Give it to 20, 30 years, man. You're not going to be able to recognize the European part of Eurasian continent, right? So, no thanks. Russia is doing good. We don't need no freaking Europe or anything. We are okay with ourselves, and all we need is security and stability in the immediate neighborhood. That's all. Immediate neighborhood, by the way. We are not looking for anything outside of that. Just a cooperation. Bilateral cooperation, okay, great, but we don't want no freaking domination over the world. US and China, yeah, they might deal with each other on this matter. So not completely accurate meme here of Trump's potential vision of this world, but nevertheless, in some sense, probably that's how Trump actually sees the world. That there is a Western Hemisphere where he is a big boss. There is a Northern Eurasia where Putin is a big boss, and there is a Southern Eurasia where Xi Jinping is a big boss. Okay. And I will end the news segment, dear friends, on this quite interesting report that Cheburashka 2, a Russian movie, become their box office leader here in Russia. And this is great. We were planning to go and see this movie, by the way. It did not work out because of me, actually. I did not wanted to go on Cheburashka. I was for another movie. So, you know, and we did not go out to see any movie eventually, right? We will in upcoming days. It's freaking expensive, man. Tickets are like 1,000+ rubles, right? It's fucking expensive, man. Why tickets are 1,000 ruble? I mean, it should be like 300 rubles. Okay. 500 is already expensive, but okay. But 1,000+, man, what the hell? This is one of the reasons we did not go, man. It's just too freaking expensive. And we had the idea that kids will go and see the movie, and guests. There were guests with us, right, at the time. And they will go and see a movie, and me and Anna, my wife, we will just, spend time, this couple of hours, as long as this movie goes, walking around these shopping malls where usually these theaters are located. But kids did not like the idea. They wanted all of us to go and see, and that was just too freaking expensive, man. So it didn't work out. But yes, nevertheless, you see, very many people went to cinema to see this movie, Cheburashka 2. We have seen first one, though. We went to see first movie, and we enjoyed it. Man. It's a kind movie, right? Funny kind movie. So I guess second one is not any worse than first one. Probably it's a good tour, and maybe we will go to see this movie. I don't know, maybe, but it's a leader of the box office here. Great. And if you are not familiar with Cheburashka, by the way, this is Soviet era cartoon hero, right? Cheburashka and Crocodile Gena. And Crocodile Gena, by the way, there was another one also, and many other figures in that cartoon. And yeah, Cheburashka is a cool creature, by the way, for sure. You know, Chinese probably see Cheburashka and they come up with their Labubu thing, and Labubu is overtaking this freaking world, man, isn't it? Whoever created the Labubu are making freaking billions, man. And their inspiration was Cheburashka, I think. Right? Cheburashka is cooler, man. I think Labubu is okay, but Cheburashka is much cooler. Anyways, this is it for this. Alexander G is commenting. Never heard of either. Seriously, man. You didn't hear Cheburashka or Labubu? I did. I mean, Cheburashka is a cartoon hero, you know, of Soviet era. So I know Cheburashka since since forever. And Labubu is popular. I know about Labubu because my kids know about Labubu, right? So, you know. And there was also reports a couple of weeks ago. I reported that counterfeit Labubus, by the way, were seized in China, that was, or somewhere, worth $500 million, man. So this Labubu stuff is a multi-billion-dollar exercise, you know. It's a massive business. Okay, dear friends, a relatively short live stream, isn't it? Let me check now. Let me check. I just checked Rumble for super chat. No super chat, dear friends, on the Rumble to react on. Let me check. Boosty, if there is anything from there, and no, nothing through Boosty. And I will check now if I had any message from Anna about PayPal. No, nothing there too. So this is it, dear friends. Then hopefully you did like the video, and if so, please click that like button. If you want to support my work, under this video in description box you will find links to support platforms PayPal, Boosty, and so on. You can subscribe, of course, on my page on a Patreon. That will be great support too. And yes, that's about it. Tomorrow, dear friends, and our moderator John is also commenting. Never heard of it either. I mean, I can understand that. But yeah, here, Chuburashka is a famous, of course, in former Soviet space. And Labubu, as I said, Labubu is like a relatively new invention of Chinese, I believe, and it's a multi-billion business, by the way, very extremely popular. I mean, here in Russia too, and I guess everywhere. I heard about Labubu from my kids first, and then I was reporting about it in the news too, so that's why I know about it. Okay, dear friends, if you want to support my work, under this video in description box, there will be links to support platforms. Please subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty. Follow me there. There's a lot of extra content on my channels there. And yes, that's about it, isn't it? Have a wonderful day, and see you tomorrow. And tomorrow's live stream is going to be at 12 p.m. on usual time, by the way, at 12. So yeah, this is it. Have a wonderful day, and take care. Bye.